read a little bit of an introduction about Rafael. He's a very talented artist who's going to be demonstrating watercolor landscapes today. Rafael is a lifelong artist whose father was a renowned New York illustrator. And we were just talking with Rafael before. He did a lot of pulp magazine covers, and he was an extraordinary artist, so you should Google that. Also, same name as Rafael, so just Rafael DeSoto, New York illustrator. This fostered an informal maestro apprentice way of learning traditional art that no school could ever offer. During his teens and early 20s, Rafael participated in many seasonal outdoor art festivals from Florida to Maine and won several awards as a young artist. He augmented his fine art pursuits with a degree in advertising, art, and illustration, and has worked as a graphic designer throughout his career. In the mid-1970s, the economy receded because of an international oil crisis, so Rafael decided to take a long summer vacation and ventured west, landing in Santa Cruz, California in the summer of 1976. He was invited to share studio space with a creative group called Rubber Band Land, an elastic alliance of artists. This experience expanded his creative endeavors to include music, poetry, photography, and multimedia. He received several California Art Council grants when the agency was first formed. One was for a series of paintings depicting public reaction to art. Another was to offer a wide variety of art classes, including traditional animation and grassroots graphics. Workshops for nonprofits groups to produce their own inexpensive marketing. He received several California Art Council grants, when the agency was first formed. One was for a series of paintings depicting public reaction to art. Another was to offer a wide variety of art classes, including traditional animation, and I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself here, but I'll finish with this thought. Grassroots graphics workshops for nonprofit groups to produce their own inexpensive marketing. During the mid-1980s, he was involved with local community television, doing a video production and broadcast design. In 1988, he got a job as an art director for a CBS affiliate in Monterey, where he helped to transition the station from analog to digital graphic production. In the early 90s, he formed his own company, Vital Visions, in downtown Monterey, specializing in broadcast design using an early digital paint box system. Rafael is a self-taught digital artist, an early adopter of Photoshop. He also worked at Adobe as a QA engineer. In the mid-90s, Rafael moved to Silicon Valley, where he was employed as an art director and senior designer for notable high-tech companies, including SGI, Adobe, Apple, and other marketing design firms. He is now retired from commercial art and paints every day. Rafael conducts public art classes around the San Francisco Bay Area and also holds private classes in his San Carlos studio. He's a member of Santa Clara Valley Watercolor Society, the Pacific Art League, the Burlingame Art Society, the Society of West Coast Artists, and the Los Gatos Art Association. He exhibits locally and nationally and has received numerous awards. We're very pleased to have Rafael here with us today. And Rafael we're lucky to have him for a 2-day workshop on September 16th through the 17th. You can sign up for that workshop at the Society of West Coast Artists.com. And I forgot to introduce myself at the beginning of this. I'm Joe Lynch. I'm a member of the Society of West Coast Artists, and I'm sitting in for Jim Stinger, who's the president. And we're going to hand it over to Rafael at this point. Thank you.
To be a bit about the softest, and 2H is probably somewhere in between there, because any harder you would score the paper, and any softer you get a bunch of graphite which is fine, but I don't need that right now. So,
Excuse
as
me,
you can see, I'm not
Rafael.
putting any details.
Rafael, they can hear now. Can you just overview what you just did?
Oh, sure. Are we on? Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we couldn't hear any of it, your presentation. Until now.
Can you see this okay? All right, great. All right, I can see it. Well, I'm basically mapping out the composition. I'm getting this big shape, which is the shark fin rock here. And I'm just going to indicate for my own, edification that a little shadow that I know that where the light is coming from. And I don't really need to do that. I mean, a lot of artists, they make, which is, I encourage it to, make, black and white studies, grayscale studies to see where the light is. And that's always a good idea. We're not going to do that now because, we're on a time crunch. But a lot of times you don't need to do that because I've done this enough that all I need to know is where to put the paint. Now, the trick is this down here to get these, the water meets sand. Not as easy as you think. So I'm just gonna, I'm just gonna do that. And simple as that. That way I just know somewhere down here we're gonna meet it. I'm not gonna make it distinct here, but this is important. So we have a few things I'm going to eliminate. One is there's some white water here. We don't need that. There's a great shadow I think is beautiful that's coming across, but I'm not going to put that in yet. Now I'm ready to, again, we've got to get the shapes right. So now I think we're ready to start painting. And I'm going to start with the sky. I don't know about you guys, but when I do a sky, I like to get it done in one pass, not go over and over it. So I'm going to wet this area first. Wet the paper and evenly. And the only way you can see we're getting even is to tilt it to make sure it's not getting blotted anywhere. There we go. And while that's soaking into the paper, I'm going to take some cerulean blue, a little Prussian blue, and mix the color. And, it'll splash it. And a tiny bit of Payne's gray, so put it over there. And that's just to knock the color back a little bit because these colors are so bright. And I'm just going to paint a very simple wispy sky. In a minute. I see that the paint is still very wet. And when it's super wet like this, it's real hard to, it's just gonna, okay, let's give it a try. And one thing you gotta do when you're painting is always mix more color than you think you need. So I'm gonna start from the top and then go lighter as we go down. See how it just wipes in there. It's like almost too. So the other thing to keep in mind is watercolor is always dry, lighter. So even though it's, oh my God, that's too much, it may not be. So. I've tilted the, oh, it's getting a nice little. So I want the bottom, so I'm going right to the horizon, a little bit below the horizon. That's a nice little, I think I'll keep that there. And I'm gonna take the brush and just kind of make some clouds, wispy clouds. I don't want the sky to be the focus of this painting, so I'm kind of gonna leave it. This is still really wet. I'm gonna give a little more color here, which I can apply again simply because it's so wet. The other thing is when you're doing this, you want to keep the same motion, you don't want the clouds that go this way and that way, it's, you know, the wind's blowing a certain way, you want to keep that going. So, okay, let's say that's good enough for TV. Okay, so what colors?
What materials?
The paints are mixed. I just look for good quality paints. I can't tell you exactly. Some of them are, you know, M. Graham, Winsor Newton, you know, all the you know, good quality paints. And this paper happens to be really nice. It's Henna Mule. My German is very bad. It's from Germany. It's the only thing I don't like about the paper is it doesn't conform to the size of, you know, the American standard size, which is like, you know, 10 by 14 or 16 by 20 or, you know, that 9 by 12. They're in centimeters, so it comes. So what I discovered is that, oh, I have all these great paintings, and I order a bunch of mats, and a thing called falls through. So keep that in mind. Now, what I'm going to do is soften the. I don't want this hard thing, so I'm just coming up and I'm softening the horizon a little bit, so I don't have that. Okay, so now. I don't want to put the hair dryer on quite yet. But I want to start filling in the, if I go in now and try to get that sharp line for the horizon, it's just going to blend because it's wet. So I have to let that dry. So that in mind, I'm going to start putting in the very lightest tones of the sand and the beach. You know, I usually start putting the sky and the water, you know, right at the same time, but we're going to do a little bit different. And we're going to start with, you know, just the terra, so to speak. So I'm going to just make it super light. And I'm just going to paint in the entire thing. All right. Basically, so it's not white paper. That's all. And I'm using some Naples yellow and some little white to brighten it up. And I'm going to do the same thing with this rock here. This is you know, wet on dry paper. So it doesn't need to be, you know, sharp or anything. It was the same thing with all the terraforms, you know. And that just helps me distinguish, you know, the rock from the water, so to speak. Basically, it's just, I just want to get the white of the paper filled in with the lightest. I'm going for the lightest side. One thing I didn't do, there's, I can do that later. I see some very light values here. So, okay. Okay, we have that. So now I'm going to put in this sand because basically it's the same color, almost the same color. And what I'm using here, I should point out, some of you might like to know, I'm just the color that I'm using is my French is bad, J-U-A-N-A, Juan, brilliant. Jaune brilliant #1 and #2. And they're really flesh tones. I use it for portraits and stuff. They're great for flesh tones and sand. So what I found is to mix that. I'm going to mix a little bit #1 with a little bit of, I'm trying to think of the color, come to me. lunar black, and that you could see that it's just a little bit, and kind of looks like sand a little bit. But what I want to do is make sure that I'm going to define the white water with this. Okay. And the white water is just little squiggly lines here, but and it kind of blends into this rock I can see. So basically, I'm just going to fill this in. This is the sand. Remember, it dries lighter, so it looks dark, but, and again, this is the underpainting. We're going to go over this again. So now that that's dry, you know, a lot of students ask, well, when do you know, when's the right time to start painting again? How do you know? And the paper has, you know, 4 different levels of wetness, basically. The super wet, you know, wet is shiny, you know, you just put it on and it'll drip. It's so shiny. That's wet. And when it soaks into the paper and it's not shiny anymore, it's still wet, but we call it moist. So you'll get a soft line. And the next level is damp, where actually it's still wet, but if you take the back of your hand, not the front, because, you know, the back, you can feel temperature. If it's cold, you know, this is dry paper, it's not cold. If it's cold, it's damp. So there's wet, moist, damp, and then dry. Just a, you know, something to keep in your head as when is it good to start painting. So, okay, now that that's said, I'm going to use some of the color I use for the sky here. And I'm going to start with that sharp line, the horizon line here. Now, what did I use? I used some cerulean blue, some Prussian blue, and I'm going to use, you know, a little extra green in here. And I forget what color this is, but it's the ocean. So I wanted a little bit different hue. And again, this is just the underpainting, but we're going to try to make this. This is a line that really needs to be straight. So just come here. And that's where this guide that I made in pencil really comes in handy, because you want it to be a straight line. And let's come in here and do it on this side too. You notice it's not bleeding into the sky, which is good. I want that. Now, as I come over to a smaller brush, to this side, I'm going to try and leave a little bit of white water. I don't know if you noticed that. I'll just do that right away. So, and before it dries, I want to do the same thing over here. So. Every once in a while, you get kind of a dry brush effect. And that's what I'm going to do here for the white water. You see what I did? I used the side of the brush and just kind of get some white water going. All right. The main thing is to get it very accurate around the shape of the rock. All right, now, for the rest of it, and we're going to do a very loose wash, and I'm going to use the same color, maybe add a little more. And I want the paper wet. Again, I'm going to try and keep in mind these little white water, if possible. If not, don't worry about it. We'll catch it on the rebound there. This stuff kind of goes all the way in here. I really want this very wet. All right. I can't hear you. I'm sorry. I've been using a flat brush a lot. I do like it. But sometimes I use this nice round one. But you know, flat is nice because you can get a big broad stroke and you can get a very sharp. You don't have to change brushes, you know, so that's why I use it. And right now I got to work quickly. Oops. And the reason why, actually, I didn't want that here. I'm going to wet the paper down here. I got to pay attention because I'm going to keep this white water going here. Yeah. Okay, good. I saved it.
Yay.
All right, let's fill this in and keep it wet. So now I want to get some of this green. I love these green tones in here. So I'm going to just go right over this. While it's still wet, it'll blend nicely. So we have a nice green and because it isn't all blue in here. And I'll tell you that color, I got to look it up, but it's very powerful, very powerful. So a little goes a long way when I say it's powerful. And as I'm going to mop up a little bit and, you know, just blend it here. There we go. Try not to lose any of that beautiful blue that I have going. Okay, so now let's get some more of this beautiful green here going, which is a little bit lighter. Okay, so what I want to do down here is get some of the water. I'm going to add some of this yellow ochre. And I just want a dry brush effect. Try not to get too hung up on the way it looks when I'm painting it because it's going to change as it dries, obviously. But maybe a little raw sienna too, because it really is the color of the sand. You know, it's really shallow and it's showing through. All right, so this brush is a little fat, so I'm going to. I want to just try to leave that white, you know, because it's nothing like the white of the paper to really show, you know, how to really have white. You know, it can add white, but you know, I just really like that on the paper. Okay, so this is probably a good place to now. Where are we doing time?
You're doing great. So
yeah,
you're a half hour in.
only a half an hour in. Look how much I got done. Okay. Yeah. Right, great. You might want to. I'm going to blow dry this now.
Okay.
So yeah. Right. Okay. Those of you who are looking at the recording, you probably scrub back and you know, now that I blow dry, you can see how much lighter it ends up being, you know, a lot lighter, which is okay. So now I think I'm going to try to block in some of that terra, you know, and this is really tricky. I don't know if it's going to work. I never do, but let's give it a try. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is get some of the green on here. I love Cooker's green. That's always a good standby. But you wanted to know what that color was. And because it's really powerful. I just discovered it, and a little goes a long way. You know, I'll get back to it. But I'm going to add a little bit of that, and you see how much brighter it gets. It's like really intense. So I'm going to come in here and just, again, this is just the first pass. Sometimes you can add a little burnt sienna to the green, and it gets it a little more realistic. And if you're unsure, you just dab it, you know, just dab a little. See, there's that green. And, you know, this is still a little wet. So let me get this green in here. I often paint like as if I were painting outdoors. I just kind of look and, you know, just interpret it, not try to copy it, but just kind of get the basic shapes. It looks like it's coming down here, and then you have a lot of green in the edge here. Oops. There we go. Then it's dotted with a few more. And then we have some on the rocks here. And that's going to dry very light. You notice that, I don't know if I achieved it, but this rock is the definition here is this is darker than the water. So I'm going to darken it up. Makes it dark green. I can go over it again, but I want to, it's making sure that you have enough contrast so you can see, you know, what's going on. And I really don't want to get carried away with this. I'm just going to put some there, and I'm going to put some yellow, this bright yellow over here. There we go. And some burnt sienna for the rest of the rock here. So now I'm just drawing with the brush, so to speak. And I'm going to blend this in. There we go. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to look, but I just want to get it established. So I'll do the same thing with over here. It's very dark. All right. It's coming along, I think. Now, there's a little sharpness going on here, which I don't like. So I'm going to try to, you can erase with watercolor up to a point, a little bit. I might have let it dry too much. But you see some blooming going on there? That's okay. Little blooming never hurt any watercolor, so long as it looks deliberate. You know, the whole trick here is to, you know, you put the brush to paper, and that whole hesitancy as soon as you go, I don't know, oh, did I do it right? Eliminate that, forget about that stuff. Just start getting it done because it's never going to end up how you perceive it. That's why I like watercolors, I guess, because you really don't know what it's going to end up looking like. So I'm going to try now to I'm going to get all the green out of here, out of this brush. And I'm going to try to emulate some of the rock here, the shadow. So very powerful color here, yellow ochre, raw sienna, burnt umber, tone it back a little bit. Okay, here we go. I'm going to leave some of these highlights here. But this is the part that's in shadow, okay? And I'm going to add some gray to it. Remember, it's always lighter. Turns out lighter than you want. Cool thing about lunar black is it's very it's a very granular pigment. So it starts making, it starts helping me with the texture of this painting, to tell you the truth. And because it's in shadow, I'm going to break the rules here and use a complementary color like cobalt violet. I mean, who's this? I think it's cobalt violet. And I'm going to just put some in here like that. See, now it's turning out textury. All right. I'm not too worried about the back because that's going to be very dark. Let's add a little more. Whoops. Wow, that's too much. Yikes. I just tell the students never use black, but here I am using black. Why am I doing that? It's got that granular. I don't know if you could see that on the TV, but it really is cool. It's cool to making textures. Eat that white water. Okay, so it's starting to have some dimension now. I'm going to use some of the same color for, and fill in. Again, this is the base, so I'm just going to make it a little darker here. Go. All right, so now I got to contemplate my next move. It's up here. This is tricky because I want to keep it very light, and so let's see. It's hard to explain what I'm doing. I'm just going to do it. I'm using some dry brush to give it the effect. I can notice that it's changed a bit here. My drawing is not correct. I can correct that later. But I want to get I'm going to start putting some values in here. Some dry brush, and then it looks like there's some burnt sienna type of look. Same with down here. Burnt sienna. Great. Okay. And now I'm going to put some underpainting here. Just for now, I really want to establish that this kind of cave. And then there's a lot of texture. So when you get the texture, you just want to dry brush. I use just a dry brush to come down and on dry paper and hope for the best, hopefully. You got to keep in mind, nobody's going to go and say, oh, that's, that doesn't look like that. No, it doesn't. It's my interpretation. Okay, so I'm going to establish this. It actually comes, make sure that's dry, comes down about this far. There we go. Okay. Is it coming along a little bit? Yeah, okay, good. This is stuff I'm asking myself, even though I know it. Do you talk to yourself when you paint? I do. There's something else going on here. There's sort of a rock behind here. And I'm just going to draw that in. See that? Okay. I know that's details, but I want to get it in now. And also some of the, there's a lot of contrast between where light hits the rock and the other place. So there's all going to be sharp. So I'm just going to put some sharp tones in here. Like that. And before I stop for a little break, I'm going to get a little more of the sand the way I want it to. And that's one and a little. It looks a little warmer here. Sand really isn't that color. That's what I mean about false photographs. But I will add a little burnt umber to it just anyway. But whoa, you got to make sure everything your paint is mixed well. And I'm going to keep in mind that I want it darker here and lighter as it gets closer to the water. So I'm just going to add water to it now. And I'm ever so slightly going to come up to the water's edge. All right. See how it's coming in a straight line like that? No straight line. So I'm literally making it, I'm changing it. There we go. Okay. I'm going to take some of that same, because it's same color sand, and add a little texture here. And especially here. It's real easy to get carried away and add too much paint. Thing with watercolors, it's easy to overwork, and it's very difficult. It's easy to make it darker, not too easy to make it lighter. So got to keep that in mind as you work along. I'm not sure where we're at, but it might be good to take a little break now. How are we doing? Is it an hour?
It's 1:45, so you've been into it.
Oh, God. See how quickly it goes? Okay, so is that okay with everybody? Let's take a 5-minute break here. And yes?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And always sit down and try not to. Okay. Okay, we're back. Time for the phase 2 of this painting, the Shark Fin Cove in Santa Cruz. I didn't mention, maybe I should, just about my little setup here. I like I'm right-handed, having the palette over here in my right hand, the water near the palette. You know, if you have your water up here and it's often you're probably going to spill some on your painting, so keep it to the side. And everything, here's my dampers. Sometimes you get too much water, and instead of like trying to get rid of it, you just put it there. Anyway, so, and I didn't have a test piece, so I'm going to do that now. So what I'm going to do is wet all the water because I want to pick the next pass. And I don't really have to come up all the way to the edge. I just want to get it wet. So I'm just applying water now with a nice mop brush here. And as you can see, because it's dry, it isn't changing anything. It's just getting the paper wet, which is what I want. And, it's not pushing the paint around. You just want it wet. So when I put the next wash down, it isn't going to, it'll be a nice blend. And I'm not worried about the edges too much because it's just water. All right. Okay, now while that's soaking, remember I said about the different phases, it's wet. So while it's wet, waiting to be moist, I'm going to mix the color of the water that I need. And that is going to be a little bit more of, a green. I know it looks blue here, but again, that's false color. And so
What color is that?
here's my test piece. Is that the right now? That looks a little bit too dark.
There's a question. What color is that?
So I'm mixing some Prussian blue with like a blue. I'm sorry, I got to get the color out because I forget it. It's like a Winsor Newton phthalo turquoise.
Thank you.
Sorry, I should. Okay, so is that the phthalo turquoise that I want? There's a little bit lighter. Actually going to add a little more, tiny bit of cobalt blue to it. There we go. That's better. All right. So now, I didn't get the water all the way on the top. So there's a reason for that, because if you apply a wet brush into dry paper, you get a nice sharp line. If it's wet, you don't. So you want to keep this horizon nice and sharp. And don't worry about it. If it's too sharp, you can always go back over it with a little water after it's dry and soften the edge up. Now, as you can see, I'm going to go make my strokes in the same direction as the water is flowing. And that's important. You see what I mean? I'm leaving some of the underpainting, and I'm just going to see what I'm doing here. Water. And I'm going to add a little blue here. It's just a bit too green. I want to have that transition from that green to blue. A nice transition. Okay, and of course, I'm not putting on any waves. I'm not going to, do any of that detail work. I'm adding a lot more blue up here. You notice I'm adding blue, but it's still turning out green. There's so much of it underneath. This is fine. And actually it's anyway, so up in this part, I'm going to add a little of the sand color, and that would be some raw sienna. There we go. Just a little bit with water. I want to keep, always when I do this, I want to keep track of the tones, you know, and I don't want to get it too dark. And you notice that it's green here. So let's just add a little bit of green. It isn't really a reflection, it's just the way the water is. And it's okay if it's not perfect, but you just want to get, you know, there we go. Okay, so that's, I think it's where we're at a point where I'm going to leave the water alone. Leave it alone. I said leave it alone. You're not leaving it alone. Typical. And this may be a little too much white water. We'll just fix it up here a little bit. You know, I'm not really concerned about the edge, you know, getting it perfect. While this is wet, I'm going to, you know, put in these really dark shadows with a rock. Here's a tip. You want a nice dark shadow? Use something like a very dark blue, like Prussian blue and alizarin crimson together. Maybe you already know this. It's a very rich, I don't know if you can see that. See that? It looks like a shadow. It plays well with other colors underneath. So if I just see that, it looks like a shadow. And it bled through a little bit, so what? The same thing over here. You know, this really dark. It's bleeding through a little bit. Remember what I said about it being wet? That's okay though. And if it gets, you know, like it's a bit too much, it's still very wet, so I can just come in here with the brush. Right. So now I still have that horizon of the water still. And well, let's just give it a little bit of I'm adding the burnt sienna because it's kind of a reflection of the cliff, same as down here. A little bit of burnt sienna while it's still wet. There we go. While it's still wet. Okay, so oh, you know what? I forgot to establish that hole, the hole in the rock. So this time I'm going to add a little bit of Payne's gray to the to that shadow mix. This is for the hole itself. There we go. And then the hole has kind of a cave, it's cave type hole. There we go. And we'll have this nice burnt sienna here. Probably a good time to just put in some more details on the oops, on the rock. Make it too dark. The important thing is to get that contrast going, you know. That's the important thing. Sorry, I muttered to myself quite a bit. Okay, so down here, I'm just putting in some texture. Oh, that's going to be good enough for that particular case. Let's get the more contrast here. This is really dark. Okay, not getting too carried away. This little rock here, well, I'm doing it because I have the colors already, so it's just, it has face and then it goes like that. Oops. Remember I said that this is a pain, as little rock is giving me a, it's like, ah. All right, well, let's just leave it. And then we'll do some of the texture. See, look how much lighter that ended up being, right? So, now here's the trick. We're getting into wet, moist. We're getting into it's being damp. It's still very moist, you know. So I'm going to wait till it's quote unquote damp, and I'm going to take this and make this is going to make this painting, the shadows. Once I put the shadow onto this big rock, and I'm kind of scared because if I don't get it right, but I'm going to let it dry a little more till we get to that point. In the meantime, there's a trick you can do to get textures, and that is some of these natural sponges. You guys ever use some of these? So if you do, you know, get your sponge nice and wet and wring it out thoroughly. And you got to test it. You can't just go on with the paint. So I'm going to take some of this color I have here and test it. And if that's kind of what I want, I'll just go in here and pick some of the detail. That'll help me, you know. And if you do it, make sure you don't get carried away. Just a little bit goes a long way. And there's some over here. You see how much realistic it gets, you know? And you just put a little bit. And the same with up here. I'm just going to. Oops, I got carried away. You just put a few of them, and it lets the viewer will fill in the rest. You know, you don't want to get too crazy with this stuff. But there is a lot of contrast here. Okay, that's coming, I guess. All right. When you're done, wring it out, because when it dries on your sponge, might not, it'll stiffen it, might not get it out. Okay, so yikes. We're almost there. I think it's time to get the shadow. Moment of truth. Now I'm gonna have to draw the shadow in here with the brush. And I want to have enough paint to cover it. So remember that's that color there. We used we used the Prussian blue and no turquoise. Yeah, well, the turquoise is over here. I'm not, because I'm going to go right over it. And this is something you really do want to test. The other thing with watercolors is the paint, you know, consistency of the paint. You can't have it too thin and you can't have it too thick. And then just how dry or wet is the paper. It's all like a kind of a crapshoot. until you start working with it. So I'm gonna dampen the color down with a little Payne's gray. I still have color for the shadow, but I'm making it a little more gray. There we go. And that shadow comes out here. See, it's still very wet, but it's too late now. It's too late. You just got to go for it. Here we go. See how it's bleeding off? I didn't wait long enough. It's a demo. I got to get going. Okay. So I'm going to try to fix it with, just like that. There's the shadow. If you squint, it's like, yeah. The shadow makes it. It makes everything. So, and I do want it soft. I don't want it to be a hard edge. So I'm just going to come in and soften it a little bit here. And the main thing is see how dark it is? Now it's time to get that dense dark in there. It's almost indecipherable. So there we go. I'm going to lift a little bit up to get that glow. There we go. And this little thing has a shadow too. Let's get on it. Just to be consistent. There we go. Okay. So look at it. See, it got too. It wasn't dry enough. I'll try and fix that. So now we'll just do a little indication of some waves here. Dry brush to indicate that, we've got moving water. One thing, if you're going to do water, the further back, the tighter these little things get, and closer to the larger they get. But I'm just going to make a few in here. I'm glad I'm making mistakes, because mistakes you don't learn unless you make mistakes. That's what I tell my students. You got to be okay with that. All right. And let's continue that, right up here. Okay, there we go. Is that looking a little better?
Yeah.
All right, good. So I'm going to just blend it out a little bit here. All you need is a couple of, indications of waves, and then the viewer's mind, oh, yeah, I get it. That's a wave. You can't do every little stroke. Okay, so I'm going to use the hair dryer again. So when we pause, so I don't blow your. Okay. Okay, back. Are we back on?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right. So we're going to use this, some of these colors here, and let's do some of the details on. You know, when I say details, I really don't mean go in there and paint every little thing. Let's see, get some burnt sienna and some ochre and test it out. So I'm just gonna, there we go. See the dry brush, just a few strokes. And there you go. There's looking more like the actual cliffs. Let's get some color in here. While we have it, let's do a little more here. Well, it really turned out blue, didn't it? All right, I'm gonna come over here again. I'm going to use the good old lunar black. I think you call it lunar because it's so granular. It looks like the moon, you know, it starts drying up. I think that's why they call it that. So now I'm really getting, I want more contrast to everything. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just creating more contrast from the edges. And maybe a little bit of strata for the rocks. It's important to get that contrast, you know, where the light is coming this way. Let's fill in this little light here. There we go. That white kind of bothers me. Okay, there we go. And, you know, if you get carried away like I did, and you just like, I didn't get enough, you can go back over it with, you know, very little, some opaque paint maybe, you know. And I can see that I'm going to have to do the shadow again, and I'm going to leave that till last. I'm going to get that right. Okay, so how do we get it looking like, you know, white water? One of the things is that the definition between, you see there's a little dark line when the water comes up and hits the sand, there's a little contrast, and I don't have that yet. So what I'm going to do is wet it, not up to it, but just right below there. I'll wet the rest of it. I'm going to make this a little darker in here. Sometimes by making the edges, you know, vignetting it a little bit, it helps to close the, you know, fill in the gap of the composition. All right, so here's a nice small brush. And I'm just going to go in here with Maybe I did too much, but you get the idea, right? I can kick that back a little bit. You see the contrast, it makes a difference, huh? It's a little more like white water, that it's just come on. Another thing we're going to do is and I'll start down here. It's just to get that white water, that splashy, well, it's like effect, you know, looks like white water, and all it is just a bunch of dry brush. You don't want it too much though. To keep that nice and light. There we go. Okay. So it looks like white water. I hope, maybe. And let's get a little more. And the strata kind of goes this way too. You know, it's not exactly like that, but it's you know, I'm interpreting it. It doesn't have to be exactly. The thing is to get the contrast going. All right, we're almost done. Any questions? No, it's okay. I can't answer them anyway. I'm working. Just to make it look like a watercolor, you can kind of, you know, that splashing thing. Be careful, because if you get it in the sky, you know, usually put a piece of paper over there. And squint a lot, you know, if you squint and it's like, oh, that's all right, that's coming along. That really helps. Why don't we take one more 5-minute break? I'm going to dry this thoroughly, put one more coat on it, and then we'll be done. Okay. We on?
Yep.
Okay, here we go. You know, one of the things, I'm going to go back over it because the shadow of this is not prominent enough. I remember I did it when it was too wet. So I'm going to dare to retry it again. So that shadow color is Elysian Crimson and Prussian Blue that I use. You want a little warmer shadow, use more crimson, a little cooler, use more blue. But added to that, little Payne's Gray to knock it back just a little bit. And that should be a pretty good color. I'm going to mix it with the blue here. And I wanted to definitely give it, you know, that. It's very prominent. It was really important to get it right. And that's better to me. And so, except for the edges. So let's come in with a nice round brush and just add some, just soften the edges a little bit here. Since it's water, it's not perfect, you know what I mean? But it's kind of there. Yeah, that's better. It really needed to, you know, stand out. Okay. Does it? Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. Put a little there too. Okay. While it's still wet, you see how dark it is in there? Let's get that going with some Payne's Gray. I'm just going to mix it in with the, there we go. All right. I think that'd make it pop a little bit better than what it was. I think. The other thing I want to do is get a little more of that green going in here before we leave. And that is just a matter of me wetting this. Again. Wanted to know what that color was. Green gold. It's a, I can't pronounce it, but I'll put it up there. Yeah. This balances that, the other green around it. Whoa. There we go. Since it's nice and wet, I can blend it. Oh yeah, that's better. That's more what I wanted to get. And let's put a little bit over here. See, now you can do some dry brush and it'll look good. There we go. All right. Another trick, I don't know if it's a trick, but while it's, really wet there, you want to get some white water. You just take pure titanium white, opaque, and just dip in very carefully, put in a little white water. See? Very judiciously. You don't want to use too much. Same one over here, it'll blend in a little bit. And that, you see that it gives it that, oh, I get it. There's some white water going on here. All right. And same with down here. It's pure white. And I'm just going to, yeah, I know you're not supposed to use white and watercolor, but for the water, there's, shouldn't be a problem. And really, I'm just letting my brush do, just random, you know what I mean? Just do some random little strokes in here, and it looks like white water. I'm not going to go into the white that I have. I just want to get a little splash going on. Right. Okay, I'm going to stop before I get too carried away with this. There's some white water streaks. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave them alone. Just enough to indicate that there's water here. See, it dries. It's funny. Opaque paint will dry darker, but transparent watercolor dries lighter. Just keep that in mind. And something else to keep in mind is I have a workshop coming up right here at the Society of West Coast Artists in San Bruno on the 16th and 17th, Saturday and Sunday, this coming September. It's from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. So that's a lot. That's like 5 hours. That's 10 hours of instruction. It's a really good value. I do other classes and they're a little more. So I highly recommend, if you want to learn how to do coastal painting, that's what I'm going to focus on for 10 hours. And hopefully we get enough people that it won't be that I can have the class. So please, come one, come all. If you're interested in learning how to do some of this, I give you a lot of personal attention. And I conduct my classes as a demo and then do. I demo and I get to a point like the sky, and then you do the sky, and then we do the water, and then you do it. So there's not well, here, okay, I'm done. Now you do it. Well, I'm not going to lose students, that way. It's easy to lose students that way, I should say. So, so keep that in mind. And I also have some other things going on. I have one space left for next Saturday, this coming Saturday on 26th at the University Art, and it is how to paint rocks, rivers, rocks, and reflections. And that's filled up. So you go to my website and you can register. There's one seat left for that. And I think that's, I filled everything. I have a big workshop coming up in October, but you can look at that on my website. What I mean by big is it's 6 weeks. So that's in October to November of this year over again at University Art. Do we need to do anything else? Is any questions? I mean, I'm really to a point now where it's just finesse on this painting. You know, this is the part where you want to go into the studio, and you know, I would go in the studio and finish it. It's like this needs a little here, you know, needs a little bit of shadow. This is, you know, details, should say, that you know, really don't need to bore you with them. Most of it's done. You know, I'm pleased with how it's gonna. I can come in here and, you know, enhance some of the rock. In you know, I can work this till death, and I usually do, and that's my problem, is overworking. Like this isn't dark enough, the hole, but you know, I can again. Keep going.
Rafael, what's on the sand? Is that a bird, little white bird?
I didn't hear that.
Oh, on the photo reference, what is on the sand? Is that a person?
No, it's a person. Yeah,
Oh.
that I left off. It might be good to put it in if you need the reference for the scale, but I don't. Same as you know, there's some white water in the shadow here. I didn't think that was necessary. You know, I might come in again and try to fix the shadow with adding, because it's not dry yet, some of this green inside the shadow because it's already there. But what I'll do is I'll post this on my website and social media when it's finished. Actually, I'll take a picture now and then they'll do another one when it's finished, because what I usually do is, for instance, we have a few minutes left, right?
Sure.
All right, so if you get carried away like I do, and you start filling, let me give you an example. It's easier to do it than to just talk about it. So some of this big contrast here, I'm going to just add. So I'm using some black, some of the lunar black and a bit of raw sienna to make it a warm black. And see, I like some of that contrast. So I'm going to come in here and just with the dry brush kind of do some more. The only problem with this, and I'll show you, is that you can put too much in. And once you put too much, you can't go back. So one of the things that I do, I've been pretty good with this one, trying to keep it pure, you know, just pure watercolor. But if, you know, this needs to be much sharper. So let me come down. This, there we go. So I kind of lost the detail around here, right? And then here, you know, really the focus of this painting to me is this shark fin rock and its shadow, which I kind of didn't get exactly right, but nevertheless, it's okay. We can go back over it. Remember what I said about the, you know, the white water? You can come in with some titanium white, pure white, and just put some flicks in here, some dry brush flicks, and look at that. It looks like water, you know? Not a lot, just a little bit. Name it over here. See how I did it here and it's all washed in now. I'm going to go back over it. it's almost, you almost have to use it like a paste, you know, just, you know, when you use this, and it's, the funny thing is it's not going to be as bright as the paper, even though it's white. But there we go. There's some dry brush white water. Yeah, that's a little better. Yeah, just kind of, you know, if you give the indication, like I said, their mind will fill in the rest. It's like, oh, I get it. That's white water. You don't have to do every single flake or anything like that. Here's the thing. I can come in here with the titanium white and a little bit of Naples yellow and start painting opaquely some of the texture, you know, that I missed. See? You just don't want to do a whole lot because it'll start looking, it won't look fresh, you know, it's like a deliberate. One of the things I want to stress is like, none of this looks, you know, like very deliberate. It looks kind of fresh because I'm not really paying a lot of attention to the details. I'm just filling it in quickly. Does that make sense? So here's some contrast here. And by putting this white over it, it really, you know, it just makes it pop and it's a little more believable. Okay, yeah. We could do that over here with these, you know, as well. Just a little bit, not too much. All right. And then maybe over here to get some of the contrast going. Sometimes it's better to just do a little practice dry brush. It's always good to practice dry brush, but you know, it's an acquired skill. You have to just trust your brush. Yeah. Okay. See that just little white, how it just kind of enhanced it a little bit? Okay, did I miss anything? Question.
Right in here. I can't tell if this is,
Yeah,
see your references, your sand, looks like the sand is in here.
it does look like the sand goes in there. Yeah. Well, you know, that's a good point. I wasn't paying attention to that, but so what we need to do is get that color
Yeah,
going in there. So I'm going to leave that to the last thing I do here. Let's clean this palette and so you notice I have a couple of water bins. I didn't really use it this way, but one's like, you know, for warm. I mean, this is the cool color, the sky, and another, so I don't have to keep going back and emptying with the water out. I use two, and this would be for the warm colors, which is burnt sienna. Oh, no, I'm sorry. A little burnt umber, raw sienna. That's way too dark. And so get it right. Yeah, so let's add a little bit of it's still dark, but I'm going to use a lot of water in here. So there we go. Now it looks like the sand is coming right up into the rock. Is that what you were talking about? I think that's a really good suggestion. And just blend it out. There we go. Yeah. Now it looks like it's coming up to it. Does it? A little more? Yeah. I mean, I just want to keep that contrast down here, you know. See, I'm erasing a little bit. You know, I can keep futzing with this till kingdom come, but oops. See what happened here? So if you get, you know, this splash and it goes into, oh my God, it's in the water, just, you know, don't futz over it, you know, kind of leave it. If it gets in the sky, that's a little bit different. I'm at a point where I think I can leave it and call it a day. And I'm looking at the video here, and it isn't bad. If I were to do it again, I wouldn't make this straight. I would make it, you know, a little more curved. I don't like that straight line, but water can come in like that. I do like the blend here. I like the contrast. You can see that deep cave. That's important. You can see this deep cave. You know, it's like I said, stand back, look at it on video. So I can, you know, put it away for a while and ponder before you continue. I got to finish. No, you don't. As a matter of fact, when I work, I have like, you know, 3 or 4 going on at the same time. So if I have a 4 or 6 hour block of time, it's not to just finish one painting, it's just to get in there and paint and, you know, whatever comes out of it. I just stick them on the wall and forget it. And then when I'm like done or get to a point where I could stop, I'll stop the next one, take a break, pull that one off the wall, you know. That's how I work. It's the important thing is get the block of time and have uninterrupted time. And that's really important. It means, you know, no putting your phone away and all that stuff. And hey, if you use your phone as a timer, you don't have to put it away. However, if you use your phone as, you know, reference for your painting, it's just too small. And, you know, it's better to print it out. And again, when you print it out, it's going to be false color, but, you know, so you know, I got to fix that up. I got to fix some, but I'm kind of done. I want to thank you. Really appreciate coming here. And I really hope that you know, sign up for my workshop on the 16th and 17th of September. And it's
This was really great, Rafael. Thank you so much.
so everything's lots of stuff. Okay, that's all.
Great, thank you.
Very nice. Yes, thank you.
Oh, we have somebody online.
Thank you and happy birthday.
Any questions? I forgot. We have you know, a studio audience and a TV audience. Any questions? No?
Someone's showing their painting.
Thank you.
So, well, we should have the video up on the YouTube site fairly soon. And just remember about his workshop coming up. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'll pump it up as much as I can. I'm glad we brought these lights.